Good life, Giddey. What up, Bulls Nation? Peck here. We got a live CHGO Bulls Podcast coming up for y'all right around the corner. Patrick Williams' return is nigh, y'all. What will that mean for Billy Donovan's rotation? Plus, a closer look at the Eastern Conference standings that are starting to take more concrete shape as we head into the final 20 games of the season. Then on the back end of today's show, more draft talk. This time, we will be joined by Hoop Intellect's NBA draft scout, the one and only Keandre Ashley. All that coming up next. What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome in to CHGO Bulls Podcast. Coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. It was 50 degrees a couple hours ago. Now it's snowing.
Yeah.
Ain't Chicago in March grand.
Ain't it grand?
I'm Peck, Bulls_Peck. That's Big Day. Bam. BWL Sports, Will the Go Gottlieb, perfectly coiffed as always. Will_Gottlieb. And the queen of the controls, the one and only Katie Duffy. Hey, what up, Katie?
Hi.
She looks shocked. Oh, my goodness.
I finished for a minute.
Are you laughing at Sean's comment?
No, I'm laughing at myself not knowing how to throw up a peace sign.
Well, I'm laughing at Sean's comment.
Thank you, Sean. That's very kind of you, man. Appreciate you, bro. Thanks
My
for
favorite
being
is
here.
Dave, but also I love Peck. You can't forget Will. Both of them.
R.I.P.
The
Joe.
GOAT and the GOAT.
Who's Joe
Plus-
who died?
Who's Joe?
He said, Sean said R.I.P. Joe.
Oh,
Young Spathis.
We've never heard him called Joe.
He's not dead.
Yeah.
And his name isn't. Well, I guess I used to occasionally call him Joe.
Yeah, when you were scolding him about getting your report, yes, you would call him Joe.
Or Joseph.
Yes, Joseph, right, exactly. Where's your homework, Joseph? Yes, that's right.
Never got it.
What's up? What's up, Julie?
Never
What's up,
got
Fish?
it. All right, y'all. Lots to get to on today's show, as I mentioned in the open. We're going to talk Patrick Williams coming back. We're going to talk Eastern Conference standings. We are going to talk with Keandre Ashley of Hoop Intellect on draft stuff. But let's kick things off with our segment that we call What's Brewing, presented by, of course, our friends at Sam Adams and that delicious American Light.
Oh,
I got myself one cracked right now. American Light.
Delish.
Light beer just got better, y'all.
It did.
It'll make you want to crack another and another. Available at your Chicago retailers.
Easy drinking right in your face.
So, guys, what is brewing is the impending return of one young Patrick Williams.
Huzzah!
Billy earlier this week led us to believe that there was a decent chance he could play in one of these games on their little 2-game Florida trip. They got the Magic tomorrow. They got the Heat on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And then today's injury report took a little peek. He has been upgraded from out to questionable.
Oh, that's probable.
So some might call that ramping up, Dave.
That's what. Oh, why would you do this to me?
I'm sorry.
Thought we were cool.
On the heels of the IO discussion yesterday, that is cruel, and I apologize.
Oh,
To be fair, you haven't
was
stopped
yesterday.
saying it since yesterday to me, and I appreciate you continuing on, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all right. But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, the ramp up was the last couple days. Now he's ramped up.
He's fully ramped.
Now he's
fully
ramped.
ramped. He's ready to jump off of it.
So, of course, Pat's missed the last 7 games
Yeah.
with this quad injury. In the games he played prior to that, it was a 9-game stretch of being removed from the starting lineup and coming off the bench. And I think his first 4 or 5 games moving to the bench, he was scoring in double figures.
Yeah.
And then the last few he played before the quad injury, he really kind of fell off a cliff production-wise.
Mm-hmm.
So Pat's been all over the place this season. Starting lineup, off the bench, healthy, hurt, producing, not producing, mostly not producing.
Yeah.
I mean, if he's come back and healthy and ready to play as soon as tomorrow or maybe Saturday, we've been getting these extended looks at, the newcomers like Herter and Collins. Jalen Smith is back healthy playing again. We've seen a lot more minutes from guys not named Patrick Williams while he's been out.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think Billy tweaks things to get Pat back out there? Because even once he moved to a bench role, he was usually playing at least 20 minutes a night, if not more.
Yeah. Dalen Terry's done. He's not going to play. Julian Phillips' minutes will be cut.
Not sugarcoating it over there.
Also, what'd you say?
Not sugarcoating it.
No, come on. It's the truth. We saw.
Dalen Terry's done.
No, he's done. He's not going to play. THT will probably go back also. Javon Carter, I mean, he wasn't already out there playing. But, yeah, like Patrick Williams, like Billy loves the vets and loves guys that he trusts. And Patrick Williams gives them a body that can defend those small forwards and those fours out there that Matas Buzelis has been, just going against and
thrown
just
deep thrown in the last 2 weeks.
Thrown directly into the fire. And honestly, hasn't done too terribly or anything like that. But I like the fact he was thrown into that fire. But Billy is definitely in a position mind-wise where he wants to win. So he's going to go with what he's comfortable with. And what he's comfortable with is a guy that he can trust defensively. Now, offensively, I'm not saying like he's world-beating defensively or anything like that, but he can trust him to, know the reads, know the plays, know where to be, and things like that. And he definitely has enough endurance to continue to be out there for like 20 minutes guarding whoever the best 3 or 4 is on the team. So that's the thing. Offensively, you don't know what you're going to get from Patrick Williams, man. Life is a box of chocolates out here for Patrick Williams when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. You have no clue what you're going to get. I know you're not going to get 20 points, but you might get 17, 7, and 4 assists from him. Or you might get 2 points and 1 rebound from Patrick Williams. That's why he is now on the bench. He definitely feels more comfortable coming off the bench. I don't think we look at his points the same way we did when he was a starter. We judge him now as a bench player. That's how he's judged now. So I want to see if he comes back and, has a little more to him. He usually does when he comes back from an injury, says, hey, yeah, I'm ready to play and do stuff. Then he's like, oh, we're done 2 games? Good, I'm out. So I'm serious. I want to see if that continues because this will be one of the few times he comes back and will have a direct role on the bench. And that is the other question I'm going to have. Will he be into the starting lineup as they get closer, let's say, to the play-in tournament and stuff? But that's a question for down the road. But as of right now, he'll be back on the bench, Will, and he'll definitely seed some time for sure.
What's crazy is that that thought hadn't even occurred to me.
Yeah.
That he could move back
in the starting lineup.
Oh, it's a thing, bro.
What about as soon as tomorrow? I mean, look at who they're playing. Like, you have Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner out there. Like, Matas, I think, is a good defensive player. He's obviously got lapses and doesn't know all the assignments at all times, but he's shown the ability to block shots and protect the rim, move his feet, all that stuff. But like Paolo probably has 80 pounds on him. Like, he's not going to be able to, I shouldn't say he's not going to be able to. It's going to be a very physically demanding and challenging game for him. And I think that's why you want a guy like Patrick Williams on your team to be able to absorb some of that contact. So I think there's probably going to be a minutes limit. Like, you're looking at knee and quad issues that he's been dealing with, and they're not going to just put him back in the game for 38, 40 minutes. But it would not surprise me at all if he's in there matching Paolo's minutes as much as he can, just because he's the one that can provide some physicality there. You've got Ayo now on the bench. Lonzo may not play. You're playing Herter a ton of minutes. You're playing Trey Jones. Like, these guys are just not physically big and built enough to be able to defend Paolo Banchero. And like, that's what you're going against tomorrow. You got to figure out a way to adjust to that. So it would not surprise me at all if Patrick's in the starting lineup.
It is worth noting that the earlier season injury that caused Pat to miss whatever, like 12, 15 games, the only time this season he did not start until getting moved to the bench for that 9-game stretch before hurting his quad is his first game back from that earlier injury this season. He did, Billy did bring him off the bench in that one. So maybe he'll do the same and ease him back in off the bench. But, to your point about what the Bulls are facing with that Orlando squad, I think that does make a lot of sense. And the other element that is interesting, and I know like Casey Johnson was talking about it on one of his little like fast break video things that he's doing now. And I think it was while Pat had gotten hurt, or maybe as he was exiting with his injury and Matas' minutes were increasing, is this look at Pat and Matas on the floor together being something that the Bulls are interested in.
They have to see what that looks like.
They do have to see what that looks like, because Pat's here for a long time, unless they trade him. He's got 4 years left on a 5-year deal.
Look at the contracts.
And Matas is a rookie, so who projects to be a part of this team's long-term future. So not only have we only seen limited minutes of Pat and Matas on the floor together because of Pat's health and Matas finally getting some playing time down the stretch of the season, now we might be talking about a starting lineup featuring both of those two players, Dave.
I'm okay with that.
Me too.
It's what I've been wanting to see for a while, is both of them in the lineup together. It also will help the people who still feel Patrick is playing out of position.
Shout out to our guy Rob, still on Pat Island.
Somebody said
the return of P. Will. I am hyped.
Okay, all right. Shout out to you, sir. It was those people who feel he's playing out of position. Oh, he's not a 4. We definitely heard that argument a lot. It will allow him to get in that position at the 3 and answer those questions finally and close that chapter so we can move on and realize the kind of player we have. And again, I just think on the defensive side, it helps when a guy like Patrick is one-on-one defending someone and allows Matas to do what he does best, which is that help defense and coming over and deterring the shot, whether he's blocking it or using his length to just make a shot difficult for you. Like Matas is really good at that. And Pat is just good at, with the size that he has. The dude's built like a tank. So guys trying to go through Patrick Williams is not going to be the case. But having a guy like Matas that can come over and help and maybe start the break with a block shot or a deterred shot where they miss it is a good thing. Because Matas, we've shown he loves to get out on the break and run. So I think that could be helpful. On paper, I think that could be very helpful for the Bulls, but it is something I've been wanting to see happen and done more consistently. I hate that it took an injury for us to actually kind of get to this level because, Io, and shout out to Io who had his surgery, was having surgery today. I hope, everything went great. But I hate that this injury had to happen for us to finally see something like this because these are questions that could have been answered. We could have been answering all season long. Like, it wasn't for me, it wasn't like, oh, my God, we got to have him out there. He's got to play. We don't need him in this position. It's hurting us lose. No, we're a losing team, and we've been a losing team all season long. So I am willing to try anything, and that is a lineup I definitely will have wanted to see just to see what it looks like. You have to start trying these things. As you mentioned, the contract and the length of it, at least another 2 years, just to be kind. These guys will be together. Those two. So what do you have? And does it work? We don't know. Hopefully we get a chance to find that out.
Yeah, all we know so far is that they have played 389 possessions together. Not very many.
Not many.
And the returns are not so great. Minus 11.6. So a
that bad?
lot of those minutes are obviously with Zach LaVine, with Kobe and Io out there, Lonzo. So there hasn't just been enough of a sample. And also, like, Patrick has played poorly this year, and Matas really hasn't come on until late. So I am with you. I think they need to see more what that looks like. Billy has been hesitant to go away from having multiple guards in the lineup because he wants multiple ball handlers. He wants to push the pace. He wants to get out in transition. And when you have guys like Trey Jones, Io, Lonzo, Giddey, Kobe, the list goes on. Like, one, you have a lot of guards to play, so you want to find room in the rotation for them. But two, they're trying to play fast. They're trying to get the ball up the court and drive and kick. And so it's easier to do that when you have multiple guards out there. And that's why you need to see some more of that from guys like Matas and Patrick to be able to, one, see if they have that in their game to where they can do some of that drive and kick stuff. But two, to like you're saying, Dave, see what you have in those two as a pair so that you know what you're moving forward with. Because as we've been talking about, Patrick, 4 more years on the contract after this one with the player option last year, and Matas on his rookie scale deal, 3 more after this year, and then he'll be a restricted free agent. So these are two of the guys that could be here long term. Obviously, trades can happen, but you got to see what you have in them individually and together.
Yeah, and that's why I said at least 2 years you're going to get for sure.
Our guy Rob saying, yep, very quiet here on P. Will Island, but we are a happy people.
Are you?
Yeah. Well, it's such a remote island. They don't know what's going on in the NBA.
Okay, all right.
So they are, you know what? Honestly, it sounds kind of nice right now as a Bulls fan. Sounds kind of nice.
You got it in a can right there, man.
Yeah, that's right.
That American light.
Josh Baker in the comments saying, I do think Matas and Pat complement each other well on both offense and defense. Pat catch and shoot threes, Matas creation, and then Matas paint patrolling, and Pat perimeter defending. Johnny Pigeon saying starting them both is the way. We know Pat ain't gonna take touches from Matas while they're both out there. Johnny also said earlier, if Billy starts Pat over Matas, I will fly from New Zealand to riot with you guys. Ooh. And so that is the one stipulation that I would have is we're talking about Pat coming back from this injury and getting minutes again, and maybe even getting back to the starting lineup again. Okay. If Pat starts and Matas is also out there starting alongside him, that is fine. If Patrick Williams comes back into this starting lineup at the expense of Matas Buzelis going back to the bench for the last 20 games, I will riot. And I will riot with you, Johnny Pigeon, because that would be bogus and unacceptable and downright riot-worthy. On that note, let's take our first ad break, and then we will come back and take a look at the Eastern Conference standings. The Bulls holding on to that 10th seed like it's their freaking job and destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the like button while we share these ads.
Do it. And do it now.
Do it now.
You know what, Matt? Why don't you go ahead, take a sip of your island.
Speaking of doing it now.
Take a sip of that island over there, sir. Oh, refreshing. He feels awesome. You know why? Because that is a Sam Adams American Light. Honestly, one of the greatest light beers I've ever had in my life. And Matt, I'm just going to say he feels the same way.
You know.
We go looking for this
Beer.
right here. You see it? We go looking for this stuff right here, man. I asked Matt the other day. I said, dude, there's no Sam Adams Light in here. What's going on? Matt said, went and got a 6-pack just to have it in the fridge. Had to have it, man. Sam Adams American Light, y'all.
Needed it for that Bulls Cavs game.
Oh, you're going to need it for the next one, baby. Light beer just got better. Introducing Sam Adams American Light. It's clean, it's crisp, and very super easy to drink. No gimmicks, no fluff. It is just simply light beer that is made right. Light beer shouldn't feel like a compromise, y'all. It's an American classic that is so smooth, you would have thought it was me. You'll want to crack open another one. And another one. And another one. It is that delicious. Why? Because it is always Sam season. Light beer just got better. Grab some Sam Adams American Light. Available now at select Chicago retailers. Must be 21. Please, please drink responsibly.
Today's show also brought to you by our friends at Cornbread Hemp. Cornbread Hemp is America's first ever USDA organic CBD company. Their mission is to improve your quality of life with the highest quality hemp. Life can get a little crazy.
A little bit.
Especially as a Bulls fan. One thing that's helped me unwind, Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies. Ooh, it's hard to unplug after those late night post games. I can't go right to bed. It's really hard for me. I'm up late. One thing that has always helped is taking some CBD gummies, and I have found my new favorites with cornbread.
Okay.
They're the best ones I've ever come across, and I've tried a lot over my years. Maybe you've been looking for a natural way to relieve aches and discomforts, maybe get yourself in that right frame of sleepy time. The CBD gummies from Cornbread Hemp are formulated to work with your body, not against it. I am not as young as I once was. True story. Shout out to our guy Braggs, who relayed an anecdote from his mother, who was catching our show with Ricky O'Donnell the other day. And said to Braggs,
shout out,
Will and Ricky both look young. While you and I are sitting here.
Yeah.
Hey, sometimes the truth hurts. But it's about maintaining physical and mental wellness. Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies are a huge piece of my wellness plan. Have you tried everything under the sun for your peace of mind? It sounds like it's time for you to try Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies, who, by the way, use only flour when making their CBD products and those gummies. Unlike a lot of their competitors, other CBD manufacturers out there these days will use the entirety of the plant, even the freaking stalk. There's nothing that we want in that stalk.
Shut up.
No. Seeds? No. Stems? No. No, thank you. Just the flour, please. That's what you get when you buy at Cornbread. Right now, they're offering CHGO listeners 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO and use promo code CHGO at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/CHGO. Promo code CHGO for 30% off your first order. Cornbread Hemp. This is the good life. With that, we move to our next segment of the day, and this one is Who's Hot, Who's Not, from our friends at Prize Picks. Get those picks in on Prize Picks, y'all. Download the app, use that promo code CHGO, and you'll get $50 instantly when you play that first $5 lineup. Nice. So, who's hot, who's not? Let's talk about the Eastern Conference standings, y'all. The Cavs are hot. Just saw them last night.
Yeah.
That was 11 straight for them.
11.
The Bulls, less hot. 2-9 in their last 11. But
playing competitively.
You playing competitively. 107 with 7 to go.
Yeah.
I was at the edge of my seat.
Edge.
Only because I bet the Cavs aggressively to cover. Shout out to them.
You should have saw.
I made myself a nice little purse last night.
Rare
Good for you.
That last 22-point beat down. Anyway, so I'm sure you also saw it go. Casey tweeted that towards the end of that, the Bulls taking that L. This will be 2-9 in a stretch of 11 games for the Bulls. In that same span, they have somehow increased their stranglehold on the 10th
because they
seed.
beat 2 of the teams that are chasing them.
They are 2-9 in their last 11, and they have increased their lead on the teams beneath them for the 10th seed. Well, break out the whiteboard for that one, Goat. Make sense of that math. Make sense of that math, because I cannot.
Oh, man. Will's going in.
What do we got?
Ban the East.
Dude. You know what the Mavericks are holding the 10th in the West right
32 and 30.
32 and 30. That's 2 games over. The Bulls are 14 under in the same spot in the East's standings.
Ban the East.
Oh, man.
Our guy Sabine prefers the verb abolish. But
yes, he does. He
same
does.
thing.
He prefers that.
That poor Mets fan.
Oh,
I think we're starting to see some little tiers in the East that are pretty
defined,
rock solid. Probably not, going to be a lot of change, except for that 4 to 6 range where things are really interesting. I don't know, Katie, if you have the most recent Eastern Conference standings from last night that we could take a look at. But so the Bucks, Pacers, and Pistons are all within 1 game of each other.
Okay. From
seeds 4 through 6, with the Bucks and Pacers actually having an identical record right now at 35 and 25. So that could be interesting. One of those teams could be, getting. You're talking about one of those 3 teams getting home court in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
The Cavs are a mile ahead of the Celtics. They seem to have the 1 seed locked up. The Knicks are 3 back of the Celtics for the 2 seed. Mm-hmm. Interesting to see if the Knicks can push the Celtics there. But then, these 3 in this 4 to 6 tier, that's where some pretty interesting drama could happen over these last 20 games.
Yeah, correct. And for me, that's the fun of it right now. Is shout out to the Pistons again.
What a run.
On my hate list for making me like the Pistons.
Yeah,
they're awesome.
They are really awesome, and I hate it so much that I enjoy watching them. But I enjoy watching them. They got a chance to move up. They can move up a little further. Indiana, can move down. Like, I feel like that might be the case because Indiana is just not a team I truly believe in. Just like looking at them and their style of play, like Detroit just approaches it in a hungrier way than Indiana, who feels like, yeah, we're comfortable here, and they're like, no, we want to eat everything, and we're gonna take the food off of your plate too. So I'm interested to see how that continues to go and move forward. I think it feels like, though, more so than the West, that things are pretty aligned. Like you said, 3 games to go to see if they can move up just 1 spot. In the West, it's like literally it could change next week. It could change the next day because there's like a game or a half a game to go. So, yeah, you're looking at 3 games. What are the Bulls at? What, 3.5 games or something like that right now?
So the Bulls are 4 games back of the Hawks,
right,
for 9,
correct.
And 2.5 ahead of Brooklyn and Philly,
2.5,
4 ahead of Toronto.
So as close to 9 as they are to Toronto.
Correct.
Yes.
But I want to take this time to talk about Toronto for a second because last night during the Bulls game, Cody Westerlin and I were sitting on press row watching
Flex.
Shout out
the
Cody.
Magic and the Raptors,
Super flex,
who played each other in back-to-back games.
Mm-hmm.
And the Raptors are up to something, man.
Yeah.
What they are doing right now should be studied. It is absurd. It is ridiculous. It is what the Bulls should be doing, but they're not. They're basically benching all of their starters for the 4th quarter.
They are.
It's crazy. And running their offense through
about it.
Orlando Robinson and Jamal Shed,
who's the
who are like
worst.
dribbling the ball off their foot in clutch moments.
Yeah.
The Raptors were up 5, and they pulled all their starters.
Yeah.
And then somehow they were able to win that game by the grace of some miracle 3-pointer by Jacoby Walter.
Shout out.
At the buzzer after Paolo Banchero hit an incredible 3 to tie the game. I mean, the Raptors have, I think, the easiest schedule remaining in the league by far. They've got like the Wizards twice, the Jazz. They've got some terrible teams.
Let's go.
And it's like, in theory, you could see them moving up ahead if they were trying. But this team is trying so aggressively hard to stay where they are in the standings. I don't know if it's admirable or insane or both. But
I was wearing my tinfoil hat on that Kobe White 4-point play.
Yeah.
When the Bulls pulled that miracle out of their butts, it seemed like the Raptors were trying to hand it to them.
Like RJ Barrett traveling after a rebound, Grady Dick missing the free throw, and then fouling Kobe on a made 3.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bulls and then winning by 10. I mean, that was an insane game. But this is what the Raptors are doing. And it's like, I get the whole integrity thing and like putting your best foot forward, trying to win games. Like, they are just not even trying to pretend like they're doing that. It's incredible. they trade for Brandon Ingram. He's not going to play this year.
No, he's not.
They're literally setting Jakob Poeltl for like the entire fourth quarter. Scotty Barnes isn't playing.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Quick it's ridiculous.
I think I saw that tweet of Cody's last night when you guys were clearly having a laugh about it on Media Row. Like,
it was insane.
It was like the final 8 minutes of the quarter, they held out Barnes and Quickly.
Yeah.
Like that is something to me that the league would look at and be like, hey, why?
Yeah, and play league.
On top of that, like Jakob Poeltl on media day was saying, like, yeah, we're not really trying to win this. Like, I get
fine them league.
There's a difference between like saying the right things and like, doing the right things.
Yeah.
And the Raptors are doing neither.
Yeah, right.
It's insane.
No, you're absolutely
right. And
yet
they could still claw their way into the 10th seed. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think the Bulls have it wrapped up. But like theoretically, that's the team to watch because of how easy their schedule is. But like you're thinking to yourself, well, they could probably beat the Wizards twice because their Wizards have won 9 games this year. No, not with Jamal Shead, Jacoby Walter, AJ Lawson, Orlando Robinson, and like a couple other guys you've never heard of, Rodin, like closing games. It's just insane.
But I would say the difference though, they do have Chris Middleton there now. Well, on the Wizards. Yeah. So maybe he still wants to play and still show that he can be in the league. So that might do something. But yes, it's not something I'm betting on. You know what I'm saying?
Just an incredible showing that has not been talked enough about around the league right now. And yeah,
it is. If that is what they're trying to do, it is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
exactly
also
what they're trying to do.
But like that game last night to me was egregious. Like.
Well, that's what they've been doing. That's what they did against the Bulls. That's what they do every game.
It's
crazy.
So that to me is like we've been talking about. Like is the reason the AK is saying some of these things that is because he's terrified of getting penalized by the league again? Because we know that the Bulls were penalized for tampering with Lonzo Ball's signing way back when.
Yeah.
And maybe that is like, well, he's just saying these things to not have the league take a closer look and to not get fined and. We're going to go out there and try and win every night, kind of speak, which Bulls fans are like, what the hell are you talking about? That's crazy. That's crazy pants. But what the Raptors are doing certainly seems like some pretty purposeful tanking down the stretch. So it is part of the reason why I think, and, Dave, we were chatting about this a little bit last night. I have now shifted my focus to like, let's hope the Bulls don't fall any further than 8th. As opposed to hoping that they move up from 8th in the lottery standings.
Yeah, he did say this, and I told him my brain isn't there yet.
Oh, I think they're going to be – I mean, the Spurs lost Wembanyama.
Got that 26th win. Yeah. That was huge.
That was. But, like, I just think – I guess let's pull up the old tankathon. But, like, I just think inertia is pushing the Bulls the wrong way. Right? Like, you have the Spurs, the Hawks are in a free fall right now. Portland's been playing well. But, like, I don't know, all these teams are – and the Mavs just lost everyone. They have their own pick this year.
Yeah.
They're not going to have that in future years. We've already seen them do the aggressive tank down the stretch. So I do not think it's a foregone conclusion that just because the Bulls are in 8th right now, they stay in 8th. And I also think it's more likely that they move back in a lottery than moving up.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong. Like I tell you all the time, Will, you see the fire from a mile away and can say it's hot. And I'm not that. I want to walk up to the fire and then feel it and say, "Oh,
Stay
yeah,
away,
you're absolutely
Dave.
right."
Stay away.
But that's why I say my brain isn't like this because I'm still looking like, "Oh, okay, 2.5." And I told Matt this yesterday. I have to get to the point where it's like 10 games, 5 games left, and it's no. I'm like, okay, now I'll deal with this. Now I'll deal with this side of it. But and it's just about approaches. I'm not saying whether one is wrong or not. It's just how I approach it as differently as you approach it. But you've been like this for months. Like, you've been seeing it and you saw that fire.
Why did they start the year 3-2?
This is what it is. You've saying this forever. So, yeah, man.
Because when you say, oh, this team's 2.5 back or this team's 1.5 ahead, whatever, and you then say there's 20 left, it sounds like, oh, well, then those teams could easily switch places.
In my head.
With a little streak here, whether it be a winning streak for this team or a losing streak for that team.
Or ooey here or there.
And it wasn't just the 2-9 over 11 and the fact that they have actually increased their lead, stat from Casey the other night. But what was the one that you had like a week before that go about how they were like 18-20?
They went I think it was 5-15 over a 20game stretch.
And they didn't move in the standings.
Yeah.
That's why I'm skeptical that they will ever move from 10 ever again. They're going to start next season in the 10th seed.
Yeah.
All the teams will be 0-0. The Bulls will be slotted 10th.
Slotted in.
Alphabetical? No.
Yeah. The only one with a seat with their name on it. This is ours, guys.
But that's the thing is like when you're winning 25, 26, 27 games a year,
right?
The 2 extra wins here and there, those matter.
Yes. Shout out to Swaggy McNolegs in the comments who said, "How is this league needs relegation so bad?" I agree. I've been thinking that for a long time. Like rewarding the tanking team sucks. It's the shitty reality. It is the reality. Maybe try something different. I think the soccer world has it figured out. We got to take our second break. When we come back, we'll be joined by our guy Keandre from Hoop Intellect to start talking draft stuff again because we can. Hit the like button, y'all.
Oh, shout out to the main man who we call Ray.
Ray.
Who hit me up on Instagram, man. Shout out to you. That's my guy.
What up, Ray?
Shout out to Ray. And make sure you get on down to Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. Head to Ray CDJ on Route 12 today to choose from their huge inventory of Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram vehicles. And right now, take 18% off MSRP with a dealer discount on a new 2024 gas-powered Jeep Wrangler model. Or shop over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With a friendly team of brand experts, the team at Ray CDJR is here to help you on each step of your car shopping journey. Plus, since they prioritize affordability, you know that you will not overpay for the vehicle that you know that you need. And with Ray's Price Promise, you can shop confidently with no add-ons and no hidden fees whenever. All right? The price you see is the one you're going to pay. It is truly that simple. So go check out our partner today to shop one of Chicago area's largest inventories. Find the right new vehicle for yourself, then drive home a very happy, indeed, a very sneaky side. The team at Ray Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram is the only one that we recommend. For more information, visit Ray CDJR today on Route 12 in Fox Lake or online at raycdjr.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Thrice.
CHGO Bulls today also brought to you by Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching sports. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections, different sports. Combine your favorite basketball players with whatever hockey game you got on tonight. And soon enough, y'all, throw some baseball in there too.
Baseball!
And much, much more.
Baseball!
Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit, which for all of you people who think, I was so close.
Right there.
Prize Picks say, we know you're so close.
We know it.
Here's some money.
Here it is.
Prize Picks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more, making it quick and easy for your deposits, your withdrawals, into your account, out of your account this sports season. And y'all, we have got some serious basketball action right around the corner. Tourneys around the corner. We've also got, of course, NBA playoffs not that far away. So don't miss out on all of the action and all of the winnings. The best place to cash in on your favorite sports is Prize Picks. Don't miss your chance for making money while these teams are taking their playoff positions. Download that Prize Picks app right now. Use that promo code CHGO when you sign up, and you will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, that is promo code CHGO when you download that Prize Picks app. Make a $5 first play, and you will get $50 instantly into your account, whether or not you make that $5 lineup. Whether it hits or misses, doesn't matter. The 50's yours either way. Check them out. Prize Picks. Run your game.
Run it.
All right. Next up on a jam-packed show today, we are going to be talking with our guy, Keandre Ashley from Hoop Intellect. Yeah. He's going to be joining us on that Hooters Hot Wing Hotline.
Hello.
Y'all check out one of the 11 Hooters locations around Chicagoland. You can also visit them at originalhooters.com. Place your orders for pickup and delivery. Both of them. Joining us on that Hooters Hot Wing Hotline, it is the one and only creator and host of Hoop Intellect, Keandre Ashley. You can follow Keandre on Twitter at Hoop Intellect with 3 L's in intellect. Don't forget that third L. And subscribe to his YouTube channel. Incredible draft coverage and analysis there. A great resource for NBA heads and Bulls fans who are getting excited about the draft. Follow that YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. It's the same name, Hoop Intellect. Over 54,000 subscribers and counting.
That's a lot.
Please welcome our guy, Keandre Ashley. What up, buddy?
Hey, I appreciate y'all for having me on the show.
I feel
Appreciate you being
I've been
here.
trying to get Keandre on forever. He seriously, like, I know you said it there. Incredible YouTube channel, great draft resource, and obviously the Bulls are gonna have a pick here. So very excited to talk with you, Keandre.
Well, first things first for me, sir. Let's talk about the hair and how amazing that it is. Like, what product are we using in this? We get on GOAT for the amazing coif that he has. So what are we using in your hair in the product, sir?
I mean, it's a lot of natural. But I can't honestly. What is this? Might even got over here.
Didn't even know.
How you thought you'd be answering today?
Some leave-in conditioner.
Yes, sir.
Water gets you right in a little coils. But yeah, that's about it.
Okay, I like that.
Speaking of getting it right, this Bulls team that we cover every day, Keandre, has a lot of work to do. And Bulls fans are hoping that we can find some piece of, a savior in this 25 draft class that you have done a great job evaluating over the last several months. I thought it would be fun to just toss some hypotheticals at you about what the Bulls could be looking for in this draft class, whether they get lucky and jump into the top 4 or end up somewhere in that kind of 8 to 10 range, which is looking more likely the case right now. Let's start here. Obviously, there are a couple of really interesting bigs that people are looking at in this lottery of this 25 class. The Bulls thought about trading Vooch, their veteran center, this trade deadline. They kept him around instead. People are talking about him maybe getting moved again this summer, or at least revisiting that trade market. Either way, he's not their long-term answer at center. Here's the question. What if the Bulls find a trade for Vooch this summer and prioritize drafting a center in this class? If that is the case, they should draft who?
Yeah, that's a interesting question. I think for me, I would value what Kaman Malawach brings to the table as high as any big in this class, any true big in this class. Just his combination of skills from, just being 7'2", having the type of standing reach and wingspan that he does, and the type of value that he can provide in the modern NBA in terms of finishing plays, screening, serving as a rim protector and a deterrent there, and also being able to do a number of things in terms of pick and roll coverages. And, I think he's exceeded a lot of expectations this year at Duke, playing to the level and moving around a little bit more than 18, 19-year-olds you would see often in a college game. So for me, I like what he brings to the table. I think that he has a little bit more to unlock offensively as well, just based off of his priors and the things that he's done on previous levels. But he is going to take some time to, put all those pieces together. I think that there is obviously other options that could give you a little bit more in terms of offensive juice, but there's also those long-term team structure questions that I would have with some of those guys like a Derek Queen, where, I think he's talented. He's still in that same general range for me in terms of the board, but you look at Şengün, you look at Sabonis, you even look at Vucevic in some ways in terms of like that roster construction and how that can cap you in certain ways. All good players, by the way, but I think I would lean more to Malawach in terms of the direction of the team.
When you look at Malawach, how do you compare him to some other centers from previous draft classes? Donovan Clingan, Zach Edey, Derek Lively, just some other players that have been drafted in recent years that maybe you could say, well, if he was in this draft, would he go ahead of a Lively or a Walker Kessler if they were both kind of in that same draft class?
Yeah, so I think, Malawach has a lot of similarities with some of those guys, especially like a Lively or some of those other younger bigs who kind of, Mark Williams, I would say, kind of in that same general range as guys who, length, have all the tools, maybe had certain stretches throughout the season where they kind of had to figure things out offensively or grow within their role and things of that nature. I think for him, what makes him unique in terms of just statistical profile or production is one, the finishing at the rim and the way that he's done it at such a high rate. The other thing is just how, because of the team that he's on and how talented Cooper Flagg and the rest of this group is, he is streamlined. He's not doing anything else. They're not running offense through him. They're not doing much more than, screening and rolling and those things. I think he is capable of more. So that would be the difference, especially between like you got a Edey who obviously posted up 400 times a game those last 2 years of his college career. But yeah, I think like just in terms of looking at them on a flat plane in terms of like tier or, caliber of prospect, I think he would still be in that same general range as all of those guys. And then you kind of split hairs on the individual parts of their game.
The Bulls, I mean, they have a ton of point guards on their team. Like, we got Giddey, you got Trey Jones, you got Lonzo Ball, and then you have some guys that can play both the 1 and the 2 in a Kobe White and an Ayo Dosunmu. Is there a 2 guard, though, specifically, that you think the Bulls should be going ahead and taking a look at?
I think the Bulls, first and foremost, should be just looking at, like, who can we get best available. They're in such an interesting situation right now. I wish they would have kind of moved towards this direction a couple years ago. But, better late than never, I guess, So in that process, it's just kind of like looking at whoever's available, whatever pick that they're at. I do like the idea of both like guys like Trey Johnson or VJ Edgecombe within this group. Trey, obviously, the type of scoring that he's been doing and the shot making that he's put on display at Texas this year has been terrific. I think that he could end up even rising a little bit more than where he's been mocked in that sort of like 8 to 10-ish, 11, 12 range, depending on where you look. I just think that what he's done this year as the number one option on that team is flown a little under the radar. He often gets like those Cam Thomas comps, but I think that he's a little bit more complete than that. So I think that you put him in this mix as a guy you can build with at least. I think that he could, have some intrigue there. And then VJ, obviously more of a top 5 caliber guy just in terms of consensus. But his athleticism, his energy, his ability to make plays defensively, matched with, what is a budding skill set and ability to, score the ball and make plays downhill, really good connected passer as well. That's a guy who, if you do miss out on that top 4 group, I would be really intrigued in long term.
So, Keandre, since he arrived in that offseason trade, Giddey's been a really polarizing player for Bulls fans. Some are big believers, some are more skeptical. I think everybody, though, believes that the Bulls front office very much believes in him being a part of the team's future. So here's another hypothetical, another what if for you. If the Bulls invest in Josh Giddey long term and want to prioritize drafting a player who complements him well, whether that be a player who can thrive off the ball because Josh Giddey needs the ball in his hands, or a solid two-way prospect who can mask some of Giddey's defensive weaknesses. If you're looking to draft the perfect pairing to be next to Josh Giddey, who in this draft class do you see that being?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. I would say for Giddey, if you're looking to build around Giddey, you're going to want to start on the defensive end. I think that just being able to insulate him and put him in position on that end of the floor to be able to finish games a little bit more consistently and provide something that, isn't super noticeable in terms of, being played off the floor, having to get benched in those crunch time moments. I would probably say that that's either a guy like Kamal Malawach, a Colin Murray Boyles from South Carolina, somebody who can provide that. We'll stick with Colin Murray Boyles for this for the answer to this question. Somebody who can play the 4, guard multiple positions. One of the best defenders in the class. A guy that I think if you're building around Giddey, somebody that can do a number of things on that end of the floor. The issue with that, I guess, would be on the offensive end because he is another non-shooter. So there would be some difficulties with that. You'd have to be able to fill the rest of the roster out. But yeah, Giddey, I think in general, you come back to Giddey is a really tough guy to build around, at least with him in mind. That's why there's always been this, obviously OKC, gave him up to be able to get a guy like Caruso who hasn't produced as much but fits a lot better into what they like to do because, you have the question: can Giddey provide enough getting downhill and as a shooter? He's been playing great lately, but can he do enough to be that lead guy and not somebody who has to play off the ball to get you wins, right? At the end of the day. So, yeah, it's a tough question, that one specifically. I guess on the offensive end, maybe the other answer to that would be VJ, depending on, you got to just figure out where you're at in the draft, just as a guard who could play next to him, who can defend at the point of attack and, provide some things there. But, yeah, it's a tough question if he's your centerpiece. If he's another guy in the group and you can kind of figure it out and mix it in, that would be ideal to me, at least.
I'm kind of curious about what you think about Matas Buzelis, a guy that the Bulls took at number 11, who last year was, going in, projected to be the number 1 pick, who definitely fell to number 11. Where did you have him at? And what have you seen from him that has impressed? And what have you seen from him that you're like, you really need to work on this?
Yeah, I had Matas, I believe, in the top 8. I think he was 8th on my board going into the draft last year. So I like the value for the Bulls. I thought that was the right pick to make at that point. And I've liked a lot of what I've seen from him this year from the Bulls games that I have gotten to catch. I think that for him, just continuing to add strength, that's going to be a huge key for him in kind of all facets of his game. Both, just being able to guard multiple people on the defensive end and really unlock some of that stuff that he can do as an off-ball guy there, but also as a driver and finisher around the rim, those types of things. You want to see him get more consistent as a shooter. When it's on, he looks great, and it opens up more in terms of closeout attacks and those things as well. But yeah, since he's gotten playing time, I've been impressed by just some of the ball skills and being able to, get to certain spots on the floor. I think it's all just about, getting more reps and seeing the game slow down and making better decisions and those types of things. But yeah, that would kind of be where I see him at. I think it's if you're the Bulls, you got to be happy with what he's done since he started playing and as a guy who can be a part of the, rebuild in the future.
At this point, and I know you haven't watched every Bulls game like we have since we're insane people.
Congratulations to you for that.
And yes, congratulations to you. But do you feel like there's more to what he has done in the pros so far? I'm talking about Matas here, based on what you saw from him with G League Ignite or any high school scouting that you did, that maybe you hope that he can get more to as he progresses, and just thinking about how you view him longer term as a piece, and factoring in what Matt was saying with Giddey being a foundational piece. Now you're projecting Matas to be in that same fold as well. You mentioned Colin Murray-Boyles, VJ. Are there other guys in this draft that would complement those two as a pairing with what Matas can turn into in mind?
Yeah, so I think Matas specifically, I'm not sure that there's any singular thing that he's done in the past where I would say he can do a little bit more of this going forward that he hasn't shown right now. I think he started to show a lot of it, and especially in comparison to who he was earlier in the year, last year with Ignite, where it was a little bit more him trying to figure out his role and where he fits in next to that team, which was a weird situation, but he eventually figured that out and kind of got a little bit more streamlined and started producing at a much higher clip as time went on. So I wouldn't point to anything in that aspect. I think that he has actually done a little bit more with the ball than I would have expected in year one. So that's a positive for sure. And then in terms of long-term, what he could fit in with this team and just who you do have at the moment, I think that he's a guy who can be fairly malleable and fit in a lot of different spots. I think ideally he's probably your somewhere in that 3-4, depending on who else is out there on the wings or who is on the back line. But just being able to, score the ball in a couple ways, serve as that help side defender and, secondary rim protector and those types of things. I think that's all stuff that he can do. And and in terms of fitting with him and Giddey as well, I think, VJ would be towards the top of the list there. Or, even if you get into the top part of the draft, obviously excluding Cooper Flag because that's going to be everybody's number one. But Dylan Harper, like I think that, the potential of him, because I think that he has a little bit more ability to play off the ball. He shot the ball off the catch really well this year. Just kind of the synergy that would exist there where you give him another guy who can get to the paint a little bit more, make plays. I think that would fit with those guys quite a bit as well.
Next, what if hypothetical for you, Keandre, is say the Bulls jump into the top 4, but not at that number 1 spot where Cooper Flag is consensus number 1. Some people have kind of thought for a long time among, the draft scouting, community, like Dylan Harper is solidly 2, Ace Bailey is solidly 3, and then a lot of people have had, whether it be, Malawach or Edgecombe, one of those guys for the other 5. But I was looking at your latest big board 3.0, and Katie, maybe you could throw it up in a minute here. You are one of several draft experts that we've talked to over the last week who have Edgecombe at 3 over Ace Bailey. But so are you telling me if the Bulls jump into the top 4 but aren't number 1, Dylan Harper is still that answer and that dude?
Yeah, I think Dylan Harper is pretty comfortably number 2 for me at the moment. I just think, I kind of hit on it a little bit earlier, but like 6'6", 6'5" guard, somebody who gets to the paint at will, can make plays in the pick and roll, solid passer as well, and somebody who I think has the ability to, play off ball, attack closeouts, and you kind of live with some of the development that he'll have to make in terms of shooting off the dribble and, just kind of nailing that home. And also, I'm a believer of his defense as well. I just think that he has the complete package as for the guys that are outside of Cooper Flag at number 1 right now.
I want to ask this. I kind of wanted to ask this to get out the way because I know the chat has some questions for you as well. But this is more of a broad question. I feel, and I'm old school, but I feel the greatest draft class was 1984. Jordan, Hakeem, Barkley, those guys. Of course, you could throw in 96 with Kobe. You could throw in 03 with LeBron. There have been some great ones. We've heard a lot about this draft class and just how good it is. Where do you think this draft class has the potential of being ranked when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I know a lot of people have, given a lot of hype to this class. I think it's good, and I think that the talent at the top is considerably better than it was last year, and that does mean something, especially when you look back at just like the strength of draft classes. Most of the time, it's going to go to who are the All-NBA guys, who are the MVPs, those types before you get to everybody else. So for me, I would say that this is a good class. Great or special in the moment, I would hesitate to go that far. I think 2021 was a class that had a ton of hype in the moment, in leading up to. And they have started to live up to it a little bit more, but it's just hard to put that on them. So I wouldn't necessarily say that it's, one of those ones or like a 2018 where you've got Shea, Trae Young, and Luka and all those guys. I think that's a class that is a bit of a tier above. 2026 would be the class that I would be more confident in being one of those, just for comparison.
On that note, one of our viewers, BR in the comments, is asking, does Keandre think this draft's depth is exaggerated outside of that top 4 or 5 guys? And how does it compare to next year's draft? So would you say that beyond that top 4 or 5 of this year's draft, that the depth of quality players in the 26th, because, we've heard all about, the Boozer twins and all that, but like beyond that, a much stronger class than this one?
You said is 2026 beyond?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I would say so. I think that there's other guys who have the ability to, get into that mix. Obviously, it's early, but even like the Nate Mintz to Jaden Quaintance to, there's a lot of names that we could get to that will be in that general area that I think will, have the ability to be a little bit stronger a prospect than the Derek Queen, or not saying that he's, not a good player, but a Derek Queen, Colin Murray Boyles, Asa Newell, Jeremiah Fear, some guys with some legitimate questions. So that would be the comparison there. But as for the 2025 draft and the depth beyond that, I do think that it can be a little bit oversold. I still think that there's some value there, especially as you get into like the early second round. But in terms of like an all timer or anything like that, I would hesitate to call it that.
I wanted to follow up on the mid part of this first round in this 2025 class, because my growing concern is that the Bulls are going to somehow make it out of the play-in and be drafting 15th. And we've been talking about like top 8, top 10, and even maybe jumping up. But let's say the improbable happens and they end up in the playoffs. Who do you like around that 15 range that you think would be a good fit? Obviously, you're not looking at like foundational pieces so much there, but just good building blocks to add to that core.
Yeah, at around 15, it gets interesting because that's where you start to get that gap where it's like, you got somebody who might think Liam McNeely goes top 10 or, he drops down a little bit more. I would say if Jeremiah Fears was still available around there, obviously a local guy as well, he would be somebody that I think is worth swinging on. Obviously, Bulls fans, he's a guard. You got to live with it for the moment. But, I like his dynamic ability with the ball. I think he's handling the class, one of the best of the last several years in that aspect specifically. Big fan of the way that he's able to, make plays. I think there's some decision-making stuff that he's going to have to work through. But he classed up at OU. He's kind of taking his lumps in the SEC. But I like what he brings to the table. And if he was available around there, he would be a guy. I think another one in that similar vein would be or I guess, somebody else who could be around there at 15 would be like Asa Newell as another, 4, 5, kind of tweener guy who has some intriguing defensive versatility and has shown signs of being able to stretch the floor, put it on the floor a little bit. So those guys could very easily go a little bit higher than that. You could be, looking at a big time swing like a Noah Esingay or somebody like that. But that there's a group of probably like eight or 9 guys who I think could kind of be in that mix.
Can I ask about 2 more quick ones?
Go for it.
Just while we're so Thomas Sorber is a guy you have at 13. He's another big. We talked about the need for front court help. What do you think about him? I haven't done too much watching. And then also shout out to my guy, security guard Bob, who was telling me last night I need to start watching more Will Riley films. So I'm curious what you think about him.
Yeah, so Sorber, he's not out for the season, had some season-ending injury. So that kind of will be the thing to watch over these next, couple weeks and months, whether he decides to declare or not. But he's another undersized big, but I'm a fan of his defensive versatility, his, poise and ability to score on the interior. I thought that he was one of the more impactful players in terms of, on-off rating and just being able to be productive on the floor. So I think that he could be, definitely a guy the Bulls will look at in that range. Obviously, health willing and knowing that that's going to be something doesn't linger long term. And then Will Riley, Illinois, he has had an interesting season. I was a pretty big fan of his coming into the year, just in terms of like a 6'8" wing who can dribble, can pass it, can shoot it, score off the dribble. Physically, he's behind in a way that he's going to be more of a project, and you can see that at the college level right now, and that led to that midseason portion where he wasn't much of a factor in a real way. But I think, he's grown quite a bit. He's fought through the contact. He's been able to make plays going downhill, and at times he looked like their best prospects in some of these recent games. So I think he's definitely a guy, especially if you do, mess around, get to that point where it's like later in the draft. I don't know if I would consider him that high, but like in the 20s to late 20s, Will Riley is the guy I'm intrigued by long term, but he could just take a little bit.
I like Riley too. Yeah.
Here's another question from our viewers. Rob is asking, Keandre, how deep is the draft for you? What's the latest pick to get a safe bet, solid player? As we could jump to top 4. Go was saying, hey, it might not be 8, depending on how the playing tournament goes. The Bulls might be picking in
the Blazers somehow
early to mid-teens
get to the playoffs.
Maybe the Blazers make the playoffs, and that pick finally conveys to the Bulls, and they've got to pick in the top 10 and in the teens. When we're talking about the quality of the depth of the draft, is there a significant tier somewhere for you at some number of like, these are going to be solid, playable NBA guys, and the rest of this projected round one is kind of a toss-up?
Yeah, I think in just the average draft, there's about, you kind of look at the top 20-ish, and those are the guys who usually end up contributing in the biggest way. I think for me personally, top 40 is usually where you have like, you kind of account for a situation and, all different types of things. So somewhere around like the early 30s is when, or the mid 30s is where I think it starts to get into a spot where those guys don't really have a big chance of contributing. Obviously there's different tiers of guys who, have a chance to start. I guess solid player, I'd have to define what exactly that is, but guys who at least have a chance to, get a second contract and get, into a rotation. That's where I would kind of view that range as. And then, after that, it kind of becomes guys who are intriguing, have done certain things that have gotten them to be worthy of investing in, but might not have the complete type of games that you feel comfortable with.
Any like mid to late first, second round sleepers that you think, one, maybe you just really like them, like the way they play, or guys that you think combine some of that tryout stuff, they could start to really rise into mid first round?
Yeah, I think right now somebody I think is going to continue to rise is Isaiah Evans at Duke. Came in 5-star, McDonald's All-American, all that. Hasn't played a ton, but the way that he's shooting the ball right now, he's shooting like 44% on 20 3-point attempts per 100 possessions, just lighting it up. He can do more with the ball in his hands, that we've seen in the past, and he's looked a lot better defensively now than he did at the beginning of the year. So I think he's going to continue to rise from that like late 20s range, and maybe even a little bit higher than that, depending on what they do in March. So he's a guy I would watch for in that aspect. And then I would say somebody like Nick Clifford, Colorado State. He's an older guy. There's obviously a little bit of a ceiling there with those guys, but just his all-around game. Last year, I thought he was draftable as a 6'5" wing, high energy, good athlete, somebody who can defend. But the way that he's improved as a shooter and somebody who can make plays for himself and others this year has been great to see. And I think that bodes well for just being able to play a role at the next level. So, I've heard some teams are a little bit more skeptical of his shot, and that's kind of the hang up for them. And that's why there's a little bit more of a bigger range, but he would be somebody who I would say as a 20s guy who could surprise some people.
We got Keandre here for a couple more minutes. That's going to do it for those of you watching on our various streaming services. If you want the bonus coverage, just head to allchgo.com. Keandre, we always ask people this when, you spend so much time diving into these draft prospects every year, and, Go was just asking you about risers, and that's what gets people really excited. There's also the opposite element, and we were talking about how the Bulls may have benefited from Matas falling all the way to 11. Sometimes guys falling turns out to be a steal. Sometimes guys fall for a reason. Is there a name or names in this year's draft class that are projected first round, even some of them lottery, that you're seeing a lot of your colleagues and other draft analysts around the world buying stock, and you are not buying stock in that player? And if so, for what reason or reasons?
Yeah, that's a question. I would have to, off the top of my head, I would say somebody like, probably like a Jaeger Demon. I still think that there's going to be teams that are interested in buying into his skill set. I still think he's interesting, but as somebody who's been projected top 10 for most of the year and has had some of the faults that he's had in Big 12 play and against Power 5 competition, just as a ball handler and, shooting about 20% from three. Somebody that kind of projects as a point guard because his passing is his most elite skill. There could be some difficulties there, especially because like physically, I know he like kind of gets the Giddey comp a lot because I think there are some similarities between creators like that. But I think Giddey as a prospect even was a little bit more aggressive and physical in those ways. So I think that he's somebody who I'm just a little bit lower on than the consensus. But I think at a certain point, if you look at him as like a playmaking wing type, if you believe in the shot enough, there's at least a chance for him to come in and contribute. So for the time being, I guess he'd be my best answer for that.
And of course, the one we always want to hear the answer to, say the Bulls don't jump into the top 4. Ideal player for the Bulls to fall into their lap, be it at 8, at 10. Who's a guy who's projected top 10, who might fall, who would be like, talk about a team that needs best available talent. Who's the best talent you could see falling into the Bulls' lap if they're somewhere in that, 8 to 13 range?
8 to 13 range. I think it would either be Kamal Malawach or Trey Johnson or Derek Queen. One of those 3 guys I would probably put in that mix. Obviously, different ranges for all 3 of them, but I started gaining a lot of confidence in those guys and just what they bring to the table. And obviously the Bulls kind of have a lot of directionality. They can go in a lot of different places. Just because you got, several guards here right now doesn't mean that they'll always be there or in the foreseeable future. So one of those guys I think would be ideal for the Bulls.
I couldn't help but notice that you didn't name the other Illini guy. You touched on Riley earlier, but Kasparas Siakachonis. You pretty confident that he's gonna, maybe sneak into the top 5, but definitely won't be lingering around by the time you get, to number 10.
Yeah, it seems that way. It seems like he's still gonna be fairly high, especially if Brooklyn keeps that, or Brooklyn and Philly stay in that sort of range before the Bulls. But with some of the recent play that he's had, I guess I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up around there. It would be an interesting fit if you're thinking of Giddey as a centerpiece. I think that you kind of got like 2 secondary guys there, but I wouldn't hate it just from a talent perspective at all.
Any others before we let him go?
No, I think that was great. Thank you so much, Keandre, for joining us. Super helpful. And yeah, I mean, we're really kicking it into high gear here with the draft stuff. So we'll probably ask to have you back on, but this was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, appreciate the time. Bulls Nation, if you want more draft coverage and content, scouting reports, all that jazz, big boards and mocks, what Keandre is doing over there, Hoop Intellect, is some of the best stuff that is available and around. Plenty of the people in our comments know that for themselves already and are encouraging our fellow viewers to go check it out. So you can find him on the Twitter machine at Hoop Intellect with 3 L's in Intellect. But just Hoop Intellect spelled normally is the YouTube channel. Go subscribe, join the over 54,000 draft junkies who are tuning in to Keandre's stuff. Keandre, we appreciate the time, buddy.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate y'all having me on. This is a great conversation.
Right on. Keep up the great work.
Shout out leave-in conditioner, bro.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
My man.
Take care, man. Oh, wow. Yeah,
that was awesome.
The more of Keandre's draft analysis stuff I've watched on his YouTube channel, the more I keep going back to it.
Yeah.
Because, I mix up a bunch of different draft scouting YouTube channels, and there's some that I like more than others, but
shout out Draft Express.
Every time,
also,
shout
there
out
was
to
just
Draft
such
Express,
a big void left by Draft Express and Adam Spinella when he left to go work for the Sixers. So I feel like Keandre's just done an incredible job stepping into that, and obviously the masses are flocking to it because it's the best.
Yeah, when you have the term intellect in your name, you need to back that up.
And he does.
And he backs it up.
His logo, his little avatar is a dude with a brain with a spinning basketball, which I love, by the way.
No, it's really cool.
It's a great idea.
It was on the wall behind him. Yeah. So, yeah, man. No, he knows his stuff. He's super intelligent, super nice guy as well, man, and just very giving with his time with us today. We definitely have him back.
And look, I almost don't want to do it.
But that means you want to do it.
But I have to.
That means you want to do it.
I have to, y'all.
Okay.
Because it's getting more and more apparent. As we talk to all of these draft experts, their job is scouting talent that's on its way to the NBA.
Yeah.
And I ask everybody, the risers, the surprise guys, the steals, it's fun.
The woozies, the wazies.
I'm also always curious about guys who do this, who evaluate all these draft prospects and aren't in agreement or alignment with the consensus of everybody's high on this guy, I'm not, and here's why. I've asked that question to a handful of different people now. Keandre's answer was the same one as a lot of people's, which is Igor Denham, the guy who everybody's comparing to Josh Giddey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. It's an interesting trend.
So we don't want that on the team. We have one. We're saying we don't need two. You don't need two of those.
It's interesting that a lot of smart draft scouting minds that is several of their respective answers so far.
Yeah.
Well, it's also interesting that
You wanted to go there.
so many people that we've talked to have said the top 4 is where it is, and everything else behind that is like, yeah, you might get some good players, but those are the difference-making guys.
Right.
And you're talking about it again in 2026, where it's one of the like generational draft classes, and the Bulls are just hanging around.
And some wonder why we get so upset about them going to the play-in tournament again.
And Diego, where did he have Diego Denham being drafted?
I think he had him in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. His big board 3.0, 23. Thank you, Katie. Yep, 23.
Yeah.
And he's right. A guy that most everybody consensus is like saying top 10.
Yeah.
He's got him at 23. Our guy Ricky O'Donnell, also not super high on him. It's gonna be okay, Katie. We're almost done.
Yeah, we're almost done.
That'll do it for today. We are back tomorrow. Bulls back in action. They take on Orlando, 6 p.m. tip. That means we'll be here for a live pregame at 5:30.
I knew that was coming.
In the meantime, check out Keandre Ashley's YouTube channel. You can follow him at Hoop Intellect. Follow the GOAT. Read his stuff at allchgo.com. Become a diehard to read all of it, the very best of it. Follow him, Will_Gottlieb. Big Days, Bow, BWL Sports. I'm Bulls_Peck. We are CHGO_Bulls. Shout out to the one and only queen of the controls, Katie Duffy. Hit that like button for crying out loud. And we will talk to you tomorrow. See you, Red. Be good.
Peace and love, y'all.
Bow.
We all silly like the mayor.